Act 1. Courtroom Introduction. The scene begins in a bustling courtroom. The judge enters, and the bailiff announces the case. Bailiff, all rise. The Honorable Judge Rebecca Martin presiding. The judge sits, her presence commanding respect as the lawyers prepare their arguments. Judge Martin. Court is now in session for the case of State versus Jacob Carter. Counsels, you may proceed with your opening statements. Prosecution lawyer. Mr. William Hays. Stepping forward confidently. Your Honor, this is a clear-cut case of fraud and breach of trust. My client, Ms. Emily Watson, entered into a business agreement with the defendant, Mr. Jacob Carter, for goods worth $50,000. Not only did Mr. Carter fail to deliver, but he also disappeared after receiving the payment. Defense lawyer, Ms. Sarah Bennett, interrupting sharply. Objection, Your Honor. The prosecution is jumping to conclusions. My client, Mr. Carter, terminated the contract because the complainant failed to meet her obligations. Judge Martin. Calmly but firmly. Enough, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Hays, proceed with your opening arguments. Act 2. The prosecution presents evidence. Mr. Hays approaches the bench confidently, holding a stack of documents and a tablet. Mr. Hays, Your Honor, this signed contract between my client and the defendant outlines the delivery of custom furniture worth $50,000. He hands the documents to the judge and connects the tablet to the courtroom screen. Mr. Hays, additionally, here are text messages exchanged between Ms. Watson and Mr. Carter in which the defendant repeatedly promised delivery, but never fulfilled his end of the deal. The messages are displayed on the screen. The audience murmurs in agreement. Judge Martin. To Ms. Bennett. Do you contest the validity of this evidence? Ms. Bennett. Smiling faintly. Yes, Your Honor. While Mr. Hays is busy crafting a dramatic narrative, the evidence fails to show that my client received the full payment. Act 3. The defense strikes back. Ms. Bennett stands confidently and walks to the judge's bench with a folder. Ms. Bennett. Your Honor, I present my client's bank statements which show that only $20,000 was transferred by Miss Watson, not the full amount agreed upon in the contract. She hands the bank statements to the judge and points to key sections. Ms. Bennett. Furthermore, I have an audio recording of Ms. Watson admitting she was unable to pay the remaining balance. The recording plays. I'll send the rest soon, but for now, please proceed with the order. Judge Martin. To Mr. Hays. Do you have an explanation for this? Mr. Hays, slightly flustered. Your Honor, my client trusted Mr. Carter and expected him to honor the agreement despite the delay in payment. Miss Bennett, snapping back. Trust doesn't pay bills, Your Honor. Contracts are built on agreements, not blind faith. Act 4. Witness testimonies. Miss Emily Watson is called to the witness stand. She looks nervous but determined. Mr. Hays, Ms. Watson, could you tell the court why you trusted Mr. Carter despite the delay in your payment? Mrs. Watson, speaking emotionally. Your Honor, Jacob Carter had been a reliable supplier for years. I didn't think a slight delay in payment would lead to such drastic actions. Ms. Bennett, cross-examining. Ms. Watson, isn't it true that you've defaulted on other payments in the past? Miss Watson, hesitating, yes. But those were minor delays. Miss Bennett. And isn't it true that you threatened to file a false case against Mr. Carter if he didn't deliver the goods? Ms. Watson. Angrily. That's a lie. The tension in the courtroom rises as Ms. Watson steps down, visibly shaken. Act 5. A twist in the case. Suddenly, Mr. Hays stands up. Mr. Hays. Your Honor, I would like to call a surprise witness, Mr. Robert Hays, an employee of Mr. Carter's company. The courtroom gasps as Mr. Hays enters. He looks nervous but resolute. Judge Martin. Mr. Hays, you are under oath. Tell the court what you know. Mr. Hays, taking a deep breath. Your Honor, I work closely with Mr. Carter. I know for a fact that the goods were ready for a delivery. But Mr. Carter sold them to another buyer at a higher price. The courtroom erupts in whispers. Ms. Bennett, angrily. Objection, Your Honor. This is hearsay. Judge Martin, sternly. Overruled, Mr. Hays. Continue. Mr. Hays. He told me to delay Ms. Watson's delivery and make excuses. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Act 6. Judge's final verdict. The courtroom is silent as the judge reviews the evidence. Judge Martin. After reviewing the evidence and testimonies, this court finds Mr. Carter guilty of breach of contract and fraudulent behavior. To Mr. Carter, you are ordered to pay Miss Watson $75,000 in damages for the financial loss and emotional distress caused. To Miss Watson, while the court acknowledges your loss, you must ensure that all future transactions are backed by complete documentation and timely payments. To the courtroom. Justice is not about favoritism or convenience, it's about fairness and the truth. This case is adjourned. The gavel strikes and the courtroom erupts in applause. Closing scene. Reflection. As the courtroom empties, the judge sits alone in her chambers, writing notes. Judge Martin. Voiceover. Every case is a puzzle. To serve justice, we must piece together facts, discard biases, and ensure the truth stands above all. The camera fades to black with the words, "Justice prevails."